Okay, I actually want to take a brief pause here to address something incredibly important. As was just previously shown, I am not at the moment able to obtain the source for citation 217, which is Marnie Rich Keenan's book, The Snow Killings. This cannot just be brushed over, though, because this particular citation is an incredibly important aspect of this entire thing because it entails a statement that Corey Williams made about a very clear, direct tie between Francis Sheldon and Christopher Bush. That quote, I am almost positive it also exists in a few other places besides Keenan's work. I could be wrong about this, but I'm pretty confident it is somewhere in Corey Williams' case notes and is also somewhere on Kathy Broad's blog. At the time of recording this, I've not been able to obtain that, and I've not been able to obtain Keenan's book, which it is featured in. But this is so important that what I want to do here is just read off the actual quote from Keenan's book as Dovey outlines in Eye of the Chickenhawk. And then to kind of make up for that, I want to just go through a few other things. These are not cited in Eye of the Chickenhawk, but I want to go through a few other things here that kind of allude to this Sheldon-Bush connection, just to kind of make up for that. But for starters, this is on page 91 of Eye of the Chickenhawk. Dovey writes, "A detective named Corey Williams, who would later head up a cold case investigation into the OCCK murders, would state of his findings, I know Bush's name was on a ledger filled with Francis Sheldon's child porn customers, and I have no doubt Bush and Sheldon knew each other." So, Williams, who, I mean, for the vast majority of the case in this entire thing, is a very upstanding guy and trustworthy source with this, is outright telling Keenan, presumably telling Keenan, unless this is in another context in the book, that he actually saw Christopher's name on the ledger of Frank Sheldon's child porn customers. And so that quote was from the Keenan book. That is absolutely a fact. It is absolutely the case. I just, at this time, don't have anything to show actually on screen from the sources for that quote, though it does exist in, like I said, a few different capacities, I believe. But I'm going to go through a couple of these things. Again, these are not cited by Dovey, but I'm going to go through a couple of these just to allude to that connection more, and then we'll proceed with the normal citations. So this is from the case notes of Detective Corey Williams from December 1st, 2005. Meeting about information Lawson provided to investigators in 1988. Today I met with John Owlett from the FBI to discuss some new information that Owlett had found in the FBI files that relate to the Lawson-Moore Lamborghini investigation. Present at this meeting was John and I, Gary Gray, Dave Robertson, and Ray Anger from Berkeley PD. John found a report that had been written by Detective Stutt from the Birmingham Police Department back in 1988. This report showed that Barry King, Timothy King's father, had been contacted by Richard Lawson via telephone from the Macomb County Jail in 1988. Lawson was awaiting trial on a 4-count CSC, child under 13 case, at the time. Lawson told Mr. King that he knew who killed his son. Detective Stutt, Detective Duncan, and Barry King went to the Macomb County Jail and interviewed Richard Lawson. During this interview, Lawson described a subject named Sheldon and 3 unnamed subjects as having been involved in a child pornography ring in the Cass Corridor in the mid to late 70s. And just to add here really quickly, to say Sheldon and 3 unnamed subjects is very... that specific choice of number being 3 is very fitting to tag alongside Sheldon, being that it could easily mean Sheldon, and then the 3 being Gerald Richards, Adam Starchild, and Dyer Grossman. Lawson also stated that these subjects were also involved in the OCCK case. So by subjects, he's talking about Sheldon and these 3 unnamed subjects. Lawson stated that the King boy was also possibly filmed by these subjects before he was killed. This report contained information from Lawson that mirrors the information that I have gathered over the past 10 months in this case, minus the names. Lawson called these suspects numbers 1, 2, and 3 and gave descriptions to detectives during this 1988 interview. These descriptions given by Lawson for 2 and 3 matched Bob Moore and Ted Lamborghini, aka Ted Orr. The subject called number 1 by Lawson has not been identified. Lawson then asked for immunity on over 20 years of pedophilia by him. Lawson's CSC case was dismissed and this information was never followed up on. A subject named George McMahon was also mentioned in this report as being associated with this child pornography ring and having been a supplier of children to Bob Moore for filming. Lawson said in this interview that he didn't think that George McMahon had anything to do with the King killing. Just want to note here really quick, I was incorrect when I said that it would make sense that the 3 unnamed subjects, because it's said right after Sheldon, would be Grossman, Richards, and Starchild. That's not correct. When Lawson is talking about these 3, he's talking about those original 3 suspects he's alluding to that Dovey talked about earlier in the book. Bob Moore, Ted Lamborghini, and I believe it's speculated that it's Josiah Tazzler, who's the other one. So that is not, I should say, that specific reference there to 3 unnamed subjects is not a reference to the other North Fox Island perpetrators. Then next here is case notes again from February 2nd, 2006. Offer discussed with Lawson for the first time. The pretrial motions in Lawson's murder case were heard today in front of Judge Michael Hathaway at the Frank Murphy Hall of Justice. Most of the motions were decided today in favor of the prosecution, including the Walker hearing. Gary Gray and Dave Robertson came down to the courthouse today to meet with me to approach Lawson. We approached Lawson and his attorney, Jim O'Donnell, today with our offer to have Lawson plead guilty to second-degree murder in the pending Giller case, cooperate in the Oakland County child killing investigation in exchange for immunity from prosecution in the OCCK case, enter the witness protection program, so that pops up again here. Protection from what exactly? I mean, that's the interesting kind of angle with that. And eventually be housed in a federal prison of his choosing, anywhere in the U.S. The offer was discussed and authorized by Kim Worthy of the Wayne County Prosecutor's Office and was in agreement with the Federal Bureau of Investigation and the Michigan Department of State Police. Lawson's reaction at first was to ask if this offer would be available to him after the Giller trial, indicating that he thought he would be acquitted. I told him that this is a one-time offer and that he could have a few days to think about it, but that this offer will not be available to him once we go to trial or after the trial. I also told Lawson that this would not be a situation where he can call me from prison and ask if he can still cooperate. I told Lawson that we are confident that we will convict him in his pending murder case. I told Lawson that we have been investigating his information about the OCCK case for approximately the past year and told him that we talked to Ted in Ohio. Richard asked me what his name was, to which I stated Ted Lamborghini. I told Richard that we have talked to hundreds of people in this case and that we identified the people that he called number 1, number 2, number 3 in the report from detectives during his 1988 interview at the Macomb County Jail. Richard said he didn't know what else he could tell us. I indicated to Richard that we have put most of the puzzle put together, but we need him to fill in a couple pieces to complete the puzzle. I told Richard that we know Frank Sheldon. Lawson asked me, "Who did you just say?" I told him, "You know, the millionaire guy that owned the island," to which he said, "Oh yes, right." Richard asked me if we had talked to Bob Moore, to which I stated to Lawson, "You know he's been dead for years, Richard." I mentioned that we have talked to some of the men that were young boys back in the 70s, such as Michael Redacted, Donnie Redacted, and the Redacted boys. We ended the conversation telling Richard to take a day or two to think about our offer and talk it over with his attorney, Mr. O'Donnell. And then finally here, for this kind of little pause here, this is an excerpt from Oakland County Child Killer Murders a Pedophile Ring Up North and Unanswered Questions 50 Years Later from Fox 2 Detroit from March 5th, 2026. This is under the section, A Northern Michigan Island with a Dark Secret. Hundreds of miles from Oakland County sits North Fox Island. While not near the scene of the crimes, its connections to some of the men suspected in the murders continue to catch the attention of investigators. The island off of Grand Traverse Bay was owned by Francis Sheldon, a wealthy businessman who ran a boys' camp on the island called Brother Paul's Nature Center. Investigators say this was actually a child porn operation. The link to Oakland County? Bush was a friend and customer of Sheldon, according to investigators. And then just to drive the point home one more time, I want to repeat the quote from Corey Williams that is in Marnie Rich Keenan's work and is quoted in I Had the Chickenhawk, page 91. And that is, I know Bush's name was on a ledger filled with Francis Sheldon's child porn customers, and I have no doubt Bush and Sheldon knew each other. Legislator to sponsor outlawing child porn. The Traverse City Record, March 12, 1977. State police seized 18 rolls of film from a Marine City man who was named in the corporation papers of Brother Paul's Children's Mission, an alleged homosexual pornography ring involving young boys in Port Huron and on North Fox Island off Grand Traverse Bay. Photographs allegedly taken on the island have been reproduced in hardcore pornographic magazines, police said earlier. Two principals of Brother Paul's, Francis D. Sheldon and Dyer Grossman, are still being sought by state and federal authorities on criminal sexual conduct charges. Flint police also confiscated 8 rolls of film from Christopher Bush, 25, of Birmingham, one of 3 men arrested and charged with criminal sexual conduct involving 10 to 14-year-old boys. Police there say as many as 50 youths could be involved. Oakland County link probed in sexual exploiting of boys. The Detroit News, February 22, 1977. Genesee County Prosecutor Robert F. Leonard said yesterday the defendants may have passed boys from one to another, and the scheme may have had nationwide ties. He said his office is investigating the possibility the defendants may have been linked to Grosse Pointe multimillionaire Francis D. Sheldon, missing since allegations that his youth camp on a Lake Michigan island near Traverse City was a homosexual haven became public last year. Bush is free on $1,000 cash bond, while Bennett and Green are in Genesee County Jail in lieu of $15,000 and $75,000 bonds, respectively. Citation 218 is letter from Robert F. Leonard, prosecuting attorney of Genesee County, to Benjamin Civiletti, the Assistant U.S. Attorney General, from March 4, 1977. This comes from page 78 of Sexual Exploitation of Children, the hearings before the Subcommittee on Crime of the Committee on the Judiciary, House of Representatives, 95th Congress, First Session, Sexual Exploitation of Children, May the 23rd and 25th, June 10th and September 20th of 1977. To Mr. Benjamin Civiletti. Dear Mr. Civiletti, just a note to express my appreciation to you and your staff for the courtesies extended us when we met with the Attorney General and you in your offices on Friday. I believe such frank exchange of ideas will be beneficial for all. As I mentioned to you on the phone yesterday, the National District Attorneys Association is anxious to develop a close working relationship with your department and to meet with you and to get some insights on your thoughts and philosophy on the problems of the criminal justice system. Since it is impossible for you to attend the San Diego conference this month, hopefully you will be able to attend our spring Board of Directors meeting in Chicago, May 11th to 13th, at the Continental Plaza. If this is possible, we would be happy to make accommodations for you at the hotel. There are approximately 75 board members and about 60 to 65 generally attend. Also pursuant to our phone conversation, I would like to briefly expand on the matter of sexual child abuse. The problem appears to be national in scope, and obviously its implications are tragic. It involves primarily children between ages 5 to 15 being sexually abused by adults. It seems there may be There may very well be a national conspiracy made up of an interrelating network of foster homes, churches, nature groups, and other similar programs ostensibly set up to handle wayward, incorrigible, homeless youngsters. These groups are not always tied together by any common denominator other than many have the same MO or the same organizer. Someone that needs investigation is a person by the name of Dyer Grossman, who it appears goes from state to state setting up these organizations, and in some cases affiliating with the New Jersey church under circumstances which avoid any scrutiny by the IRS. These phony organizations are established in such a way as to be the conduit to accumulate youngsters to be used in making porno films and being available for sexual activities with adult perverts. Some of the expenditures for these youngsters are unknowingly being provided by public funding. These programs are being stocked with young children by overburdened courts, insensitive parents, and in some cases well-meaning officials. Once the youngster is placed in the program, whether Michigan, Tennessee, Louisiana, or any other state, he is trapped and becomes the easy prey for the sexual deviants who in most cases are running the programs. It's an interesting choice of 3 states there. These adult perverts appear to be aware of the network and travel between states attending these camps and sexually abusing these children for money, usually paid to the camp officials. Many of these people involved in this type of activity are very wealthy individuals, and some are respectable community leaders in their hometowns.